All right, welcome to the Pat Life podcast. As always, I am Patrick, and today we have a season regular here, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Christopher Gardner. What's up, dude?
Oh man, good life here, man. It's freezing rain. We're getting it like a snowstorm in a day or two. So I've been out chopping a ton of lumber, getting
Nice,
ready, getting my fire going.
nice, dude. And you just got back from your properties or your sites over in what Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, I have a project. I have a development down in Costa Rica, and so had our a year end walkthrough with the clients and
Nice.
scheduled what we're doing for next year, and you know, gave the my employees their bonuses, so everybody's happy.
Yeah, oh,
It,
dude,
it's
you can.
shopping. It's shopping week down there, so everybody's stoked.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I mean, on top of all that, you've reached out and told me that you're also launching your own show, dude. And that's kind of the bread and butter. We'll get into gravy, but I want everybody to kind of hear a little bit more about what is you're doing, man. What is this what can they expect?
The main thing I want to do is I want to learn from people.
Uh,
And I have found that the long format interview is the best way that I can imbibe information.
mhm,
So I had a podcast in 2014 and 2015. I think I only did like 20 episodes, but I reached out to all these people that I really respected,
mhm,
and I just wanted to learn.
mhm,
In my local environment where I was in Costa, the way I saw things and what I was like exploring in my consciousness didn't really fit the timing of my friends there.
mhm,
Everybody had young families
mhm.
and I didn't have a child yet, so I didn't really have any intellectual peers. And
Right.
so I'm not a troglodyte. I actually love technology if it's used correctly. And I was like, wow, well, I receive most of my information through podcasts because that back then, like the my Wi-Fi it was just off a real bad 3G cell phone connection. So I did everything through audio. So I'd work all throughout the day because I'm a working guy, and I would just listen, and whenever I could get into town, I would record a podcast. And so now, with technology being a little bit better here in the Ozarks,
Yep.
and over the last 8 or 9 years, building a pretty good network of people like yourself that are just like, voraciously consuming information from all over the world. I think it's time to jump back in because
Mhm.
I, the, I'm a philosopher at heart, a natural
Right.
philosopher at heart. Like, whenever I can have a really good conversation with a like-minded person, or even not like-minded, but somebody that I know is really exploring something to the depth that they can, I get invigorated. And
Yep.
so my podcast, we're mainly going to dive into cosmology
Whoa.
because I'm a I'm a Pisces and sun sign, and I have like this deep love of philosophy. I have my wife and I, like, that's our shtick. It's like we're mainly talking philosophy, like,
Mhm.
and I just feel that it's very apparent since 2020 that we're living in the apocalypse. Like, the apocalypse to me is a wonderful thing. It's this time where it's the revealing,
Mhm.
there's all these things that were obscured or occulted are no longer obscured or occulted. So it's really wonderful. And there's so many new people that are on the scene that I just got to get in there and talk to them.
Absolutely, dude. And I can assure you, as much as people have grown to like my show and things that I'm putting out there, they obviously love the guests. And I know for a fact that the knowing that you're putting now this information on your own platform or on your own podcast where you can just go on your riffs, you know what I mean? If obviously you'll have guests and learn from guests, but that's the thing is people want to follow that trail of like, what do you mean axis mundi? What are these things that I've never been really privy to or been introduced to? But obviously, with everyone having a more open mind, being it we're in this beautiful apocalypse where these reveals are happening, you're seeing a lot more people going, yes, I'm willing to just listen, and kind of how you were back in 14 and earlier on. And
Mhm.
what's great, it's, at least for someone like myself, it's going like, I'm a busy guy. We're all busy. We all have our stuff. I'm doing this. But once in a while, I like to be able to go tune into something else and be just listening without having to necessarily communicate, which I obviously love. It's great. And it's knowing, already your kind of lineup of guests that you have coming on. You said you're going to dive into mostly more cosmology. So with that being said, who are some of the guests that you want to bring on that you've already had in mind to kind of let people know who to expect? What are the all right. So I had a little bit of a break there. Took a 5 minute smoke. And anyway, so where do we leave off? We were talking about what to expect. What are some of the conversations? Even though I know you said earlier you want to dive into cosmology, but who are some of the guests that you have coming on? What are is there specific topics that are really intriguing to you right now? Obviously, with the show that goes on, all these things are always coming up, but I guess where's this jumping off point for those looking for that gravy of what to expect?
The real gravy to me is cosmology and biology. It's
Hmm.
just life.
Yeah, same.
I just moved from the pura vida life, like the
Hmm.
pure life. And so much of life, I'm a meta person. Like I think from the outside in. I've
Hmm.
been told I'm a holotropic thinker. So a holotropic thinker doesn't think in a linear way.
Hmm.
Like I kind of bounce, ding, 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 and then before you know it, there's a picture, there's a photo. It's a very, I guess, right hemisphere artistic way of being. And I'm like that with everything, with my building, the way I think, just the way I go through life. Like I can't do a straight line,
Right, right, right.
which is really funny. So like on the heels of your great interview with Dr. Tom Cowan, I'm going to interview him,
Nice.
and I did his I did his podcast a few years ago, and we just started to touch on water, and now
Mm,
he's diving into the new biology, and I now we're going to really geek on water because
mm,
um, in a very paraphrased, condensed way of saying it, it seems like water, structured water, is the superconductor in our body
mm,
that is our real nervous system.
mm,
We have a secondary nervous system that we've been taught about in biology, but the primary,
mm.
and to me, that gets me like so excited because
Yep.
over the last few years, I've been developing a water purifier that is based on magnetics. And when you get into high level magnetics, you get into superconductivity. You get into the notion of superconductivity. And then when you get into the high level water purification, you also get into structured water acts like a superconductor.
Mm,
So I'm a huge fan of talking about instantaneous reactions. I've known ever since being an athlete that the model of biology was bullshit because we were told you have this metabolic reaction creates this energy and it goes through all these like steps. Absolute dog shit.
yeah.
They have now with all these like 5K video cameras, whenever you're watching um, athletes move or do something, they're reacting well before a stimulus.
Mm, mm. Yep.
Like you have somebody hitting a pitch that's going 100 miles per hour, they're starting their swing before the ball even leaves the pitcher's hand.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now it's being captured at such a level that all the GPS that they're putting on guys and they're seeing heart rates and all these things shift before a stimulus. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't say anymore that biology is this metabolic, billiard ball atomistic bullshit because it's not. We don't
Absolutely.
live in that construct. And so if you broaden that out from biology and take that out to the most meta aspect, it's like what do we live in? Like what is this? What is this? And then I just had an interview, or my very inaugural podcast will be with Tom Barnett, and we got into the meta of it, like what is this construct? Because he and I have both had enough experience with direct influence of our environment to really question the atomistic way of looking at things. So yeah, and so I'm going to be interviewing. I'm going to get a lot into harmonics because,
Mm,
as far as I understand it, what we experience is vibrational. Everything we experience is vibrational. So, have you heard of Tanya Harris?
no.
Oh, dude. So, we've become friends. Like, she's going to be on the podcast. She's the person that figured out how to measure the base resonant frequencies of structures, and
Whoa.
then put them to cymatic patterns.
Whoa.
Um, and it's really crazy because these cymatic patterns, when she did it in certain what are cathedrals, the cymatic pattern that she got from the base resonant frequency equaled the rose window.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. So that
What?
confirms so many things on an antiquitech level. So I really have known ever since I was a little kid that we come from a very dignified uh, ancestry. We
Mm,
we're not we didn't come from lesser than, we came from more than. And so a lot of my guests will reflect that with their findings. They'll actually show, because to have a real cosmology, you have to have somewhat more of a true history.
mm-hmm.
And I'm of the mind that a lot of the historical narrative has been written by the winners, which we know, and those winners don't have our best interests at heart. And so the whole thing with Sun Tzu, like with the art of war, is that you never let your enemy know where they stand. And the people that write history, they don't want us to know. They don't, and technically in law terms, they don't want us to be in good standing. In fact,
Absolutely.
their entire system is based on us being in not in good standing. So the podcast is really going to put us in good standing. It's going to plant our feet in the ground. It's going to have us be much more capable, because we're not going to have these blinders, that are put on us, keeping us, in this tunnel vision of the uh, the MO of our oppressors. And I don't even come from an oppressor or oppressed, framework anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it will be helpful for people to have a little bit broader context of what their power is and where they come from.
Totally. And what's interesting is you said about the oppressor, oppressed. When no one talks about like, oh, these people are just like, like, oh, take my boner pills, take my this, and then you realize it's like, as you said, there is no oppression. It's a matter of they're going like, wait, there's information that I don't know about that you guys have kept, and it's like, maybe, and then they're like, all right, well, what is it? It's like, well, we're not going to tell you. And if you try to figure out, we'll cut your foreskin off. And you're like, well, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
but you realize that the information's all around us all the time. It's just having these
Yeah.
types of conversations, you know, being able to process the information, analyze it, and then observe it around you. So that's what I love about this, because as you said, it takes in and of itself, it takes away this mindset of like, oh, they're doing something to me. It's going, no, this information is letting you know it's all around you. It's the
Mhm.
beauty of it, man. It's just getting you to think a little bit differently, or a lot differently, on how you view this world and how you view your life. And that's what's
Right.
cool. And talking about the biology, that's where I've been too, man. About like looking at yourself and looking at the system of like, what is this thing, man? What is this like superpower thing that I've been bestowed. So I
Right.
totally get that, man. And so real quick, I have to go back. I know you talked about vibrations and harmonics, but what else did you and Tom dive into in regards to what this place is? Like, can we get a little more taste of like some of the key points that were brought up so people could be like,
Well, that's my first inaugural, 2.5 hour blast out there.
when is it? Well,
Um,
when's it coming out first? When can people
we're
expect
probably going to post it Friday. So this
this?
Friday, I'm waiting on, I got a bunch of bears helping me with everything. Owen's
Sweet.
crew has been like super awesome. And yeah, the main consigliere behind the scenes, he wants to roll out like a website launch and all of it at the same time. So I believe it's Friday. I'm
Oh
gonna
wow.
find out today. Today we're recording on Tuesday, I believe it is.
Mm,
Um, so Tom and I are, immediately became friends.
yeah.
So we're definitely going to have lots of conversations because we both, switch on certain aspects of each other's minds that we could explore those veins, those threads of conversation for quite a while. So this realm is a combination. It's like a Venn diagram of interference patterns. So a long time ago, when I was so I have to back up. Before I got into any conspiracy, before I got into any deep science, for 8 years, I had dedicated my life to meditation in a very specific type of meditation called self inquiry. And what occurs in self inquiry meditation is you get to the fourth wall. And what I call the fourth wall is that aspect of your sentience that sponsors your awareness. So it's pre-awareness. And this is the core of all Vedanta Advaita. Vedanta Advaita is the path of non-duality. And so I was a very, very earnest seeker in this way, where I could become ultra ultra subtle. Like I could get pre-mind, I could get pre-intentional field, pre-causal field, like pre and so I was in that world very very like balls deep. Like I was the operations director for an ashram for 4 years. I was part of what sponsored my move to Costa Rica. We were going to build a center down there. And so my whole phenomenology went from being like this, super subtle awareness to now being thrust into being somebody that's going to live off grid. And in the mid early 2000s, like 2004 2005, when we were going to build this off-grid center, it was like, okay, so how do you do a solar system? How do you build with natural materials? How do you do all this stuff? But I was coming from 8 years of like really exploring what is consciousness, like what sponsors consciousness on a real like on a not just from a philosophical but from a practical perspective.
Mhm.
And so, that was when Google Video was still out. That was
Yeah.
before YouTube. And like I was instantly thrown into this world of like, wait, money comes from debt, like all these things were like now in my consciousness as I'm trying to live off grid, along with being like this like subtle little butterfly. And it was very jarring. It was right during my Saturn return of my life, and it was like literally like a flip upside down, and also trying to live in a foreign country and all the rest of it, right? So coming at things from being an outsider has been very beneficial for me because I went into the over unity world not being trained in physics.
Mhm.
I went into the off-grider world living in an urban from an urban environment, coming into the agricultural world like being somebody that just shopped at the supermarket,
Hmm.
I've always been the outsider. And having that perspective has one kept me really humble because I'm always entering into things without having any idea what's going on. And being like, wait a minute, what
Yeah, yeah.
what
Are
do
you,
you do here?
I have a
Like,
VIP pass. I don't know where I am. It's like, what? Come on
and
in.
like, have you ever looked at human design?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a 6'2", so I'm the role model hermit, which is really like I fit that really well. Like I straddle the fence. The sixes
Mhm.
are the ones that like, sit in the attic or the top of the mountain and they watch everything and they're very
Mhm.
good at observing and like seeing trends, and it's like the meta thing. And then the two is the hermit, which
Mhm.
is like the genius, but it's the genius only when you're alone.
Yep. Yep.
So, did you ever see the movie Mystery Men?
Yo, yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh, dude, one of the funniest lines in any movie ever is the black kid that's like, you know, I'm invisible,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'm only invisible when I'm alone and nobody's there to see me.
Yeah, dude,
But
I haven't seen
that's
that in a hot second, but I actually do remember that line when they're like, they're looking at it like, what? Dude, it's
Dude,
so
that
funny.
movie has so many little lines like that. Like,
Dude,
not a lot of people catch them, but I was just like, oh, that's so funny. But that's like the 6'2". That's like, I'm always straddling the fence. I'm always living between countries, or I'm always like, if I, like I'm just never the dude that's from the thing.
right. Well, it's also goes back to even kind of what you were saying about you're somebody who's like, you're putting pieces all over the place to create one picture. And you're doing that essentially like in the physical realm of like, I'm going to all these different places to get all these different pieces to
Mhm.
basically create this picture, which I would say, or it seems like you being in the Ozarks now in some ways could be all those pieces kind of coming together. I mean, obviously the
I,
journey never stops, but it kind of seems like you're trying to plant foundation here and make this your spot. But it just all those years, it seems like of you like do watching from
yeah,
afar, being like, I'm the only genius in this entire place, but nobody knows it.
no,
Like
no, no, but it's so funny because I'm afflicted. I have an affliction, and the affliction is I can never do something exactly the way it's been done.
yeah.
And I had this in football and soccer and tennis. Like my coaches are like, no, 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 what you're doing is good. Just keep doing that. And
Hmm.
like in my mind, I have this compulsion to like, no, 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 I can get better. I can if I just like modify this. And sometimes it's been to my detriment.
Right.
It's not always the best thing to do, but it's just something in my being where I'm I'm never going to be the expert because even what I've just mastered, I'm already on to the next thing.
Right.
Like
Right.
I'm not I'm I and it's been like from a monetary perspective, for a life wealth perspective, it's awesome because I have great stories and I have incredible experience and all that. But from a monetary perspective, it probably hasn't been the best thing because the second I get really good at something, it's like, oh, I already see the fault in it, so I have to move. Like
Hmm.
I have to go. And I think, after talking with Tom, that's the sign of a living man.
Hmm.
Like a true living man can't be arrogant, because if you're a living man or a living woman, you're just gonna like whatever you've gotten good at is it's passe.
Hmm.
You're not identified with it. You're already moving towards the next thing.
Well, absolutely. And I even equate that to just the body, you putting the body under stress. And like you need certain stress, right, in order to change, to see and
Right.
experience growth. And reality is when you're become so comfortable, it's, for some it's like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore because I don't know what to do with my comfortability. Where some people, and it seems like you are, I know I am, it's going, I enjoy being in a position or a situation where I have to figure it out. Like I enjoy that experience because as Tom said and what you're saying, it's in many ways, it's like I'm alive. Like I'm figuring out life. I'm like figuring out more about myself, what I can do, what I'm capable of. As you said, connecting dots. And that's so I'm with you guys. Like that for me is like, oh, I got this down great. I have that ability. I can always go back to it. But here's something new that I find very interesting. Let me dive right in. What? Oh,
Mhm.
I need tools. Where do I get them? Are you seriously? You have no idea? I'm like, nope, but I'm happy to be here. Yeah. I brought my name tag. I got my name
Yeah,
tag, like so yeah.
yeah. Attitude is everything. Like I've really learned that in life because in most situations I'm outgunned. But I have a really good attitude and that's
Yeah.
God given.
Yeah.
I can't even take credit for that. So
Mhm.
just having a really good attitude and just being like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
here I am."
Right. Dude, and but this is the cool thing with you going back to your podcast. It's like the more, and I know you've been on enough now where you've talked about some of the gravy and stuff, but part of you sharing your story too, and obviously the more you're doing and being and I know you've already done your podcast, but with more people now aware of what you're doing and like wanting to be like, all right, what does Topher got to say? It's like these little stories about who you are, your past, and kind of the interweaving of it all. Like at least for me, that's exciting too, because that helps bring more of the philosophy aspect, the cosmology, the biology to life. Because,
Mhm.
obviously everybody knows who you are, but, I think in many ways people are going to connect with you feeling like, oh, I know Topher a little bit more now. There's like that, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
it's like they're connecting because they're like, I'm tuning in every week, kind of like they do with Big Bear, like, or any podcaster. It's like,
right.
oh no, we have this connection. But then they're like, oh man, dude, it's like I feel like I'm in my living room with him and we're just sitting there, nights slowing down and you're just all hanging out, kids are asleep and you're just talking. And it's like my buddy Topher is just going on and I'm just sitting here taking it all in.
Yeah, never a dull moment.
Yeah. So let me ask this. With the show, I mean, because we're not done yet, but where are you trying to put it up on so that way people can start getting ready for where to look? Um,
It's going on to topherhq.com. So it's my name's Christopher Gardner. My friends call me Topher. So I figure those people that, want to listen,
yeah, yeah.
like they're friends, right?
Hmm.
So my consigliere said, let's just do, Topher's headquarters, topherhq.com, because I also have my construction companies.
And that will be through there as
So
well.
yeah, so people can see in my body work, so they can kind of, it's a
Hmm.
clearinghouse for all the weird things that I'm into. So I have my Costa Rican construction company. I have my stateside construction company. I have my body work, and then I'll have the podcast. All that will be on topherhq.com. And then also, I guess we're doing everything. We're going to do all the streaming platforms.
Nice.
If it's okay with Martin, we might do Rockfin. Um,
Just throw some banana peels
you
at me,
know,
dude.
eventually unauthorized,
Sweet.
so yeah, we're just gonna run and gun. Unlike when I did it before, like I actually have a team. That's one thing I've learned in the last 9 years. I do much better as a manifester to have a team.
Hmm.
So if I can call the shots and then have all my generators get the work done, um, ever since I've really owned the fact that I'm a manifester, my life has turned out great.
Hmm.
When I was growing up, I was trying to be a generator, and it didn't. It was very frustrating for me. I dealt with a lot of anger issues as manifestors do,
Yeah.
but I'm like an egoic manifester, so
Yeah.
I'm really here to talk.
Yeah.
I'm really here to talk and like get people fired up about all the weird stuff, and just invigorate the populace with a new way of seeing things, because life is awesome. Like
Yeah.
life is really good.
Yeah.
There's so much juice to be had,
Right.
and there's so much opportunity at all times, and I live that. Like I really feel that and I live that, and it seems to be a lot of other people find that valuable. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm bringing the podcast back. And I'm super grateful to the Bears and all the people that are, kind of in the back of it,
Mhm.
getting all the gears to turn.
Dude, and that's the beauty of the community, man, and this whole experience. As you said, it is beautiful. It's when you can see that, the message, not just the Bears, but people talking like your tribe, knowing that, you have people with those same goals, those same thoughts of like family first, community, all those pieces. And you start to realize, man, like if you start there, well, let me step back. You start with seeing the value in yourself, really. You start to see the value in others. You start to see it starts to expand, and going, man, this place is freaking awesome, dude. Yeah, there's a lot of like stuff that's obviously dangers and stuff. It's like, okay, we need to be more aware, or but the gravy in regards to, like you said, like, oh, the debt, the monetary system is all debt. Like, yes, those are cool things to go down to, but if you don't know how to climb back out, you get stuck in it. You don't see, for a lot of those people, they can't see the beauty of all of this, right? It's like
Mhm.
getting to the point where you're talking, or where I'm talking, where it's like the body is just generating electricity, electromagnetism. You have full control over how much your inputs come in. Do you even know like how the heart moves? Like, and everyone's just like, wait, what? You know what I mean? So it's a fun experience that I think, well, I know that a lot of people listening to your show are going to be like, dude, this is exactly what I need. And you also do the body work too. So as you're talking about, the stuff that, in regards to the biology, are you going to be trying to not necessarily like promote the body work, but are you going to try to parallel or draw parallels when you're doing that to like help
Well,
promote?
that's the fun thing is straddling the fence is like it's like whenever you're a cross domain athlete, like I would always take things from soccer and bring it into football. And then I
Mhm,
would take things from football and bring it into tennis. And like there's always like, different sides. Like when you can look at the dynamics of life from all these different vantage points, it really makes for a well-rounded life.
yeah.
And so for me, I could never just do body work, or I could never just do construction, or I could never just do a podcast.
Hmm.
Like each one informs the other.
Yep.
Each one it's like a holistic way of being. There like every single I look at every single, opportunity if I'm in a good space, or every single moment as an opportunity to learn. Because like I was saying earlier, is I really like to learn.
Hmm.
And I will different clients bring different energetics.
Hmm.
And then the Venn diagram of our interference patterns informs me a certain way. And then that might be relevant to, me talking to Dr. Daniels or whoever.
Hmm.
There's like who knows? That's the brilliance of life, is like um all the best things in my life have been surprises,
Yeah.
you know.
You said
And
that last time, actually,
yeah.
too.
And
Yeah.
so for me, I don't want to script anything. Like I
Hmm.
want to be in that instantaneous moment of now and just let the superconductor of the juice of the gravy just fucking go.
Yeah,
And we'll
dude.
see what happens. Because whenever I try and script life, whenever I try and say, okay, my 5-year plan and my 10-year plan, just the way I'm wired, God smacks me upside the head and says, nope.
Yeah.
Fool, I make the plan. And so
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay. And whenever I just get into that synchromistic, like,
Mm.
bobbing and weaving and like, okay, I have to run out to the hardware store first thing and like not even think about it and go. Then I meet these really cool people that tell me about this. Da, 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 da.
Mm.
That's life. And
Absolutely.
and I think one of the reasons why I've had such an interesting life is because for the majority of my adult life, I've been in that synchromistic vein.
Yeah.
Like I'm just kind of like riding.
Yeah.
I'm riding what's going on and like okay, all right, and I don't have a 5 or a 10 year plan. I just don't.
Right. Well, what's interesting too is and with at least the training, how many people you realize that spirit aspect, like you said, if you got a 5, 10 year plan, God's smacking you up across the head. Like, not today, bitch.
Yeah.
It's about, for so many people, that lack of spirit, that connection to the breath, connection to God, connection to, source, whatever we want to call God.
Hmm.
It's realizing how many people, because of that, they feel like everything's constantly out of control, spiraling out of control for a lot of
Hmm.
people, because they've lost that. And even the people who say like, "Oh, I believe in God," but they don't, what I mean? The way they, as Owen's gone on, Paul Week and things like, they're still like, just because you're saying something, you're not embodying it, you're not really experiencing it. You're still sitting there worrying about every little thing. You're trying to make 10-year, 12-year plans and, freaking out every step of the way, not just giving that faith, like you said, riding the wave. You start to see like how many people are so disassociated with, just like you said, being, like just
Hmm.
being present, just being a living man or a living woman. And that's realizing it's like, dude, it's like literally always there in front of you at all times. So seeing people like yourself, Tom, I think in some capacity, hopefully this show, where it's going like, dude, just keep going, like just ride these waves. And then with the gravy, you're like, all right, man, I get to ride some of this waves and not, like you said, not think of like a 10-year plan. Maybe through this process, you find your connection with God again, or realizing that they came here with a purpose. They're here for a reason. Whatever that reason is, I don't know, but it's just, yeah, that's the cool thing about these kind of conversations. And then obviously your body of work, like you said, the
Right.
connecting of all the pieces. I'm looking at an architectural structure that's made, within the golden phi ratio,
Right.
and that's in my body. Wait, what? Wait, there's a
Hmm.
harmonics to this thing, and like our body carries a certain harmonics. Like, wait, like what? That's
Right.
beautiful. That's not by accident. There's no way that's by accident. She's like, exactly. Keep following that. You know what I mean? Like, go to my next episode.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
And we're gonna, and the thing is too, is I'm not just doing this for an intellectual curiosity. I actually apply what I learn.
Hmm.
So after talking with Tom or Dr. Daniels or Tanya Harris or any of these folks that are coming on, I put it to practice. Like
Hmm.
and that's what's fun. I think that's what a lot of my new friends are finding out about me is like, oh, this guy, like he does it. Like
Yeah.
he
Hmm.
so like uh we're gonna build our my I should say my family is going to build my dream vision of a home,
Oh.
which means we're going to implement super adobe, aircrete, my reciprocal truss system, my reciprocal roof system, um, thermal mass heating,
Hmm.
electricity generation, biogas generation, and I don't know what they call it here, but it's sort of like a sunken in greenhouse on the south side facing. So we'll
Hmm.
have this, it will end up being a two-story greenhouse on the south side facing of the home that will do water rain catchment. Like this will be the pinnacle of hybridization of all of these systems
Whoa. So,
that if people learn, if they learn these systems, it's actually a lot less money than conventional construction.
whoa. So I don't want to, you don't have to go crazy deep into all of it, but can you kind of give us a little bit about what each of those things that are part of your dream house, like what are they doing? Like why is someone possibly wanting or needing this in their own house?
Okay, well, with Super Adobe, Super Adobe is rammed earth construction. It's technically called flexible form rammed earth construction. And so it gives you walls that are, essentially a foot and a half thick, like 18 inches to 20 inches thick.
Hmm.
When you have a wall that's that thick, if you insulate the outside of it with aircrete, you can hold all the heat in your building during the winter
Hmm.
at a very low energetic cost. And during the summer, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to heat up the inside of your building. So I'll do my first story in the thermal in that amount of mass. That's, rammed earth construction is a lot of mass, right? So I will use thermal mass heaters, which is a very efficient way of burning wood so that it's smokeless. And it takes about 1/8 the wood input to heat the same given area that, say, a fireplace would heat or a propane heater would heat. So you combine those two things together along with a house that has curved walls. Curved
Mhm.
walls don't have the angles of sorrow.
Mhm.
So now you're even more energy efficient because I am a lazy person. So efficiency is a way that you can secretly be lazy.
Mhm.
So if I build, essentially the bottom story as a cylinder, and that cylinder is made out of that amount of mass, then that will structurally give me the capacity to load bear for a second story. The
Mm.
second story will give me the great views of the sunset, will give me great views of the lake. And then I can build a greenhouse on the south side of the building where I can actually have some tropical trees in that greenhouse year round.
Mm.
And then I'll have a thermal mass heater that will constantly be heating that space. So, in the dead of winter, I can have 75 degrees in there
Wow.
and grow year round,
Yeah.
because food sovereignty is one of the reasons why I moved to Costa Rica without knowing that Costa Rica is like one of the worst places in the world to have food sovereignty. So,
Is it just because the soil and everything, or it just
yeah, and bugs, man.
yeah,
Bugs.
they're
Bugs eat everything. So,
they're
unless you're going to use a lot of chemicals, you know,
damn
yeah. So you can have you can have fruit all the time, but like my wife, she's an O blood type, so she doesn't live on fruit.
right.
So, yeah, no, it was really funny. I think I told you this story before, but one of my neighbors down there, he had this beautiful 120-acre farm,
Hmm.
planted it with the most exotic fruit trees because he's a frugivore, but he's a single guy.
Hmm.
Like he's an older gentleman, and so he has thousands of fruit trees, and he was complaining to me at the farmer's market. He's like, Topher, the deer are going wild on my property. They're eating all my fruit. And I'm like, dude, we should set up a hunting blind in the
Yeah.
forest and get some deer. And like as a vegan, he almost like croaked on the spot. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm like, who do you think you're planting all that fruit for? Because like literally you can't do anything with all that fruit.
Right. There's no possible way you could do anything. He's sitting
No.
there's like, no, we can't do it. But sure enough, like the minute it gets near his eyes, like, kill them all, shoot them. Like, you're like, all
But that's
right,
the funny
dude.
thing is like a lot of people that have these frameworks of mind is like, well, first of all, that area of the world wasn't meant to have, fruit forests.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a canopy. Like I got a huge gut shot when I was first moving down there because I was like, what are these vegetarian slash vegan urbanites? And I'm coming down there and I'm at this like, permaculture farm. I'm like, what's the best thing I can do for the environment? And
Yeah.
the guy just looked dead in my eyes and says, "Don't move here."
You're like, next thing, what's the next one? He's like,
And
don't
dude, that
move.
was a gut shot because I was like, I was this arrogant little prick thinking I could make things better, and it's like,
Yep.
no, 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 no.
It's
This place would be perfect if you don't come in here and like, bring your North American bullshit. And you know
right.
what? After all the years of being there, he was right.
Yeah. What I was gonna say in regards to the domes that you created though, I'm assuming there's a quite the value in that in regards to the land itself, like you said, whether heavy rainfall messing with the structural foundations and things like that. I'm assuming that gave people quite a bit of. I know you didn't necessarily do it for all the locals, but for people living there, was it beneficial in that regard? Just because it was able to handle the weathering of just the natural state of that place.
The first domes I built were not appropriate because I built with super adobe and that's very heavy.
Hmm.
and the ground there is very plasticky from a geological perspective, so it
Mm,
doesn't have compression strength.
got it.
Whenever you compress clay, it like squirts out, right?
Mm, yeah.
So we had to put in these massive foundations and cut into the earth a lot. And that wasn't environmentally appropriate for such soft land. And that was
Mm,
when I was just beginning in '07 and '08. So I didn't know that aspect of it. I thought,
mm.
hey, I'm building with earth. So I ended up ecologically understanding the best way to know how much your energy impact is the weight of your structure.
Mm,
Like if your structure is super heavy and it's coming from materials that are not close, not
hmm.
in the region that you're building, you're not being ecologically friendly.
Right.
And one of the things that I wasn't taught initially when I was doing Super Adobe or any of these like heavier masonry things was that equation.
Yeah.
Weight equals displacement. So in this environment in the Ozarks, it's wholly appropriate.
Yeah. You can go
Like
to
I'm like,
town on it.
oh, I live on a limestone shelf, like,
Right.
here it's going to be perfect.
That's
Pretty much
awesome.
everything that I was learning in Costa Rica was training me for now.
Dude, that's awesome, man. That's
So,
cool.
and I ended up building like my company Ticodome, the tropical ecodome. That's what Ticodome stands for. And it's
Mm,
also a pun because down there, Costa Ricans are called Ticos. So Ticodome was tropical ecodome. So I married Super Adobe only for the foundation to a ferro cement hemisphere that was on top.
mhm.
And then with a cast reciprocal roof that goes over the dome to protect it from all the water. This year in Costa Rica, guess how should I say this? They got over 10 meters of rain this year.
Dude. And well, compared to when you were there, like how does that fare? I mean, that's
That was
insane
very
amount.
much like '07, '08, '09, '10. So we had the first few years I was there were
Hmm.
super wet. And
Hmm.
all of us that made it through that time, it culminated in 2010 with the neighborhood that I was in. All three bridges that got you in the valley, we called it the valley, they all blew out.
Wow.
All three of them blew out at the same time. So as a community, we are cutting down these massive trees and laying them over the quebradas and the streams and like, motoring, like you'd see these huge trucks, like these big,
Mm.
11-ton dump trucks going over just two trees. Like,
Jeez.
yeah, yeah, it was nuts. And
Me
then from
meanwhile, you're sitting there being like, how can I change this place? Like, would you shut the fuck up? Would you just shut up? We don't need you to change anything. Just get out of the way. Yeah, I'll plant
so it
some
was
kale.
it was nuts because at that time, my ex-wife and I, we were like, she hated it. Like she hated the rain. And I thought I hated the rain more than she did. And I was getting job offers all around the world. And I was like, well, we don't have to live here. Like we can leave,
Mm,
and we were just about to go to Canada right before we split up. And then I was like, okay, like I don't know if Costa Rica's for me. It's been really wet. And then we went through, I guess, the El Nino phase, like the 5 or 6 years of a lot less rain.
mm-hmm,
And then that's when the huge influx of new people came down.
mm,
And so everybody was used to it with like very mild rain. And
mm-hmm,
so I remember this development that I started 3 years ago. My main client, he's like, he bought a piece of land, beautiful piece of land, but it was in a riverbed.
mm-hmm,
And everybody had been talking about how dry it is. And the problem is a lot of people are just there to sell you their wares. They're not really, they don't, at least let me say in the construction world of Costa Rica, to be specific.
mm-hmm.
And so he had all these people in his ear saying, oh, you should build this way, you should build this way, you should build this way. And I go, I'm not, I'm stilting everything on your property. And he's like, well, I don't like how it doesn't feel grounded. I go, I don't care. We'll ground the buildings out. But you
You
live in a
mean
riverbed. like you need to stilt everything. And even his house, it's on like this, it's on a like a mini hill, and I stilted that thing. I put
Mm,
that up, and I got a lot of resistance. But the last 2 years, it's been raining. I remember I could smell the rain coming in 2021
mm.
because it smelled like when I first moved to Costa Rica. I was like, I could
Uh-oh.
smell the sweetness in the air, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, it's going to be a wet year. And no one wanted to hear that. And I was like, no, I know this smell. This is like '07.
No
And
shit.
it was like clockwork, man. The big rains came, and this year it was record setting. They said in that zone of Costa Rica, since they've been keeping records, it's never rained that much.
Wow.
I mean,
And
can you
so,
imagine 10 meters?
dude, that's
That's
insane.
400 inches.
That's insane, dude. I mean, if you think about it, like if you think about it, 10 meters, so a 3 meter diving board is what, about like 9 feet?
Yeah, 10 meters is 400 inches. A meter is 39 inches. So let's just
Yeah.
say 390 inches, 390.8 inches.
Jeez, dude. That's insane. That's so
Yeah.
that's so much rain. And that guy sitting there being like, well, I'm glad I got these stints or these stilts.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, it was great because I felt this huge relief with everything. One, they knew I wasn't like making shit up. Like they were like, okay. But they got to a point where with the stilts, the rain still made it, the water on the property got up to the second step.
Oh, dude. So he's like, yeah, thanks, but it wasn't high enough. I'm like, oh, jeez. All right, easy, Ira, easy, dude. That's crazy though. That's so like,
Yeah.
I don't think majority of us can comprehend what like how much rain that is.
No, it's incomprehensible. In 2010, when all those bridges blew out, we had 5 days in a row, 24 hours of just the hardest rain you could imagine. It was
Wow.
driving my ex-wife crazy because it was just like we lived in this little house that had a metal roof. And so all that rain hitting the
Just
metal roof,
for 5 days straight, you said?
5 days straight.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
dude, so I'm family's starting to wake up. We had a little bit of a later start, everybody, so my apologies. But I do want to before I don't want to jump too soon here, but I do want to talk. We were talking a little bit about training in regards to some of the movement stuff.
Yes.
I don't want to, just kind of give some feedback for those listening. I was just I gave Topher some inputs to try to play around with. What were your experiences with it?
The main thing I had to do was clear the psychosomatic contradiction I was holding in my liver line. So my sacrum went out, and it was the fourth time my sacrum has gone out, and since my wife was pregnant and then had the child. So for the last 3 years, my sacrum has gone out 4 times. And in that 3 year period, there was a tremendous amount of destabilization in my life with because I always thought I was going to just stay in Costa Rica,
Hmm.
but with all the COVID stuff, having a new baby, building a house, like nothing from a roots perspective was actually settled in my life until we got this property.
Hmm.
So the psychosomatic connection through L5, L4, and the sacrum has been really fluid. And there were some certain things in my psychology that I was denying. That was second chakra, you know, really second chakra. And I felt the energetic, I felt the twinge through my liver line and my kidney line on my
Hmm.
right side that was like
Hmm.
so dramatic. And then that's when the sacrum just did its thing. And my chiropractor down in Costa Rica, he said he had never seen a subluxation of the sacrum like that. It
Hmm.
wasn't rotational at all. It
Hmm.
wasn't it wasn't tilted like this.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like down and like it was like this really weird thing. Like it took him two on two different occasions just to get it back to where it needed to be. And all that time, I like anything, I was just looking at it from like, okay, my body is my buoy in consciousness.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, so I'm like kinked like a C to my right side. So the doer, the male archetype of making it happen, everything dealing with like creating, all that had been like fully on go.
Mhm.
And then, but I had the denial of receiving the fruits from that.
Mm.
And that's my sacrum's like, nope, dipshit, until you can take enough time just to be, and like, I'm going to put you down.
Mm.
You're going to be incapacitated and you're just going to have to really self audit, you know.
Yeah.
And it was great
That's
because I had
awesome.
to ask my environment to do stuff.
Right.
Like I
That
had to, I reached out to you and you gave me these great exercises. And from a physical perspective, your exercises were great. But what was really going on for me was me humbling myself and
right.
really going, okay, saying to the people around me, I need you.
Mhm.
Like this is what I need. And because,
Right.
even like, in the whole new age, rhetoric bullshit, like you don't need anything and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I'd been running that program for 20 years.
Right.
Utter bullshit. The truth of the matter is, no, I do need things and I do like things and I do want things, and it's
Mhm.
okay. It's perfectly as the creator intended. So,
Absolutely.
and just owning it. And so once I came into that ownership in my consciousness, it cleared.
That's awesome, man.
The whole thing
That's
just cleared.
see, and that's the beauty of it. It's going, it's not just the movement aspect, it's the self, reflection, it's the going inward, it's the admitting, like you said, taking ownership of being like, hey, I need people. I enjoy people around me. Having things in some capacity has its place. It's a matter of whether or not there's like a sense of gratitude and appreciation, right? Like
Mhm.
having materialistic things, having people just to say you have like a million friends or to say you have a bunch of just shit is a lot different than being like, no, I have people in my life that I can trust or I can put faith into in the sense of like I'm putting my well-being in your hands for a second, or just at least the recommendation of not like, as you said, oh, I can do it myself, or oh, I don't need stuff. It's like, no, these things are all very, very helpful and they have a place. And if you know how to take that in, it's only going to make you better. And in your situation, literally in many ways helping with your sacrum, like
Yeah,
in this physical pain that we're feeling. Because as you know, and most of us are at least getting, most of the physical pain is just is a manifestation of what's going on many other levels within the body. It's just expressing itself to being like, all right, you haven't listened to anything else. Let me start getting to the physical because that will get your attention, right?
right,
That's the impression I'm under. It's like there's a layers to like, do you know this communication? All right, screw it. Blow the sacrum out, like contort him. That will get his attention. And hopefully by now he'll be able to sit down, like you said, and reflect. So I'm happy to hear that, man. And I hate to cut it short. I know we had a couple of setbacks, but you know, I wanna just everyone, if they may take the time when it comes out on Friday, the first episode, going to Topher HQ. Is it Topher or is it T O?
topherhq.com. In in all the podcast players, and on, I guess we're on Stitch, Rumble, like everything,
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
Shoe, all
Yeah.
those. It's Bio Charisma podcast, and that's a play
Okay.
on biochar.
I love it, dude. Well,
Because I'm a nerd.
well, you also have the same thing for Instagram, so it'll be easy for
Yes.
people to find you, not having
Yeah,
18
I guess
different
that's where
names.
most people imbibe my work, because
Hmm.
it's just this really like, I don't know, I just put out like short little videos there all the time, and
Yeah.
people seem to really enjoy it.
It's a great learning experience. It's like for those like myself who like, do I intend to be building biodomes? No, but seeing how you do the biochar, like seeing how you do these processes and just getting that information is just it's not only great entertainment, but it's like a humbling experience of like, all right, I'm learning how to do something that I can maybe do down the road, or at least seeing, okay, what's around me that I can start putting in to create fires and create smoke and create this. And it's like, all right, like it's stepping stones. And it's beautiful to see too, like the structure you've been putting together, man. The one you
Yeah,
just
check out the
posted.
site. I don't think you've ever seen my full catalog of stuff.
No,
I
and that's
say
the
that,
thing. I want to see it. Yeah.
yeah, I think the site has about 50% of what
Sweet.
I've done from a structural perspective.
Yeah,
So it's a good catalog of the different things I built, and we're not resting on our laurels. Like we're gonna start building resonant cavities,
it's
and
awesome.
when you combine that with light and sound therapy, like it's essentially we're gonna bring back the cathedrals. Like we're gonna bring back this energetic pattern that imbues vitality.
I love that, dude. That is awesome. Well,
Yeah.
on that, man, like I said, I hate to cut it short, but this is I'm so happy that you're doing another thing to the plate of taking initiative and sharing this information, man. And highly recommend everybody go there, check it out. First one's gonna be the inaugural one's gonna be with Mr. Tom Barnett. Celebratory drinking your own piss shot. We're getting crazy over there. So, but Topher, man, I appreciate you coming and sharing this information, dude.
It's always a joy with you, Pat.
You as well, man. All right. For those listening, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Bye,
All
guys.
right.